We begin the day with a warning that dates back to the Cold War, but weapons to attack that are very, very 21st century. The Russians are coming. No soldiers, instead online bots and malware so powerful that they could threaten democracy here in Europe. Now, this is a serious warning. And today it came from the world's most powerful woman in the free world, the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. She, along with intelligence agencies, are just now realizing how massive a cyber attack was last weekend that took out hundreds of thousands of phone connections here in Germany. But it's not your smartphones that has Merkel and her top spies worried. The power to shut down gadgets can also be used to shut down minds, especially at the ballot box. After suspicions of Russian manipulation of the U.S. election, now Germany's top spy thinks that his country's national election next year could be the next big target. Take a listen to what Merkel said about the presence of a cyber enemy with origins in Russia.
Let me simply say that such cyber attacks, as outlined in Russia's doctrine as hybrid disputes, are part of everyday life nowadays. We have to learn how to deal with it. And to do that, we must inform people. We should keep communicating our political convictions and not be unsettled. We just have to know that it exists and learn how to live with it.
Well, you have to recognize your problem and its source before you can learn to live with it. Now, it has taken a couple of days for German authorities to gauge just how massive an internet attack really was last weekend. Hundreds of thousands of Deutsche Telekom customers were suddenly cut off on Sunday. Deutsche Telekom says it managed to contain the attack and that it could have been worse, something on a global scale.
Nearly 1 million internet routers were forced offline in Germany. Deutsche Telekom and German authorities are convinced it was a cyber attack. Could Russia be the culprit? The Chancellor has no indications in this particular case, but in general, Germans should consider this new reality. The head of Germany's Federal Intelligence Agency warns that cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns can originate in Russia. This ahead of next year's parliamentary elections. The German parliament has already been targeted by hackers in the past 2 years. Individual representatives were attacked, as were CDU headquarters. Many suspect that foreign agents were to blame on account of the complexity of the attacks, and that worries us, especially when it comes to what will be happening next year and also regarding the parliamentary elections. We've also seen how the topic of attacks and hacked emails played a major role in the U.S. presidential campaign. A motive has yet to be determined for the telecom router attack. One possibility may be commercial interests, but a political background is also likely. These are surely not just two teenagers in a garage who somehow just wanted to play a trick. These are professional structures, either organized criminals with a lot of capital, or state structures, or even both of them together. We have indications that there are hacker groups from Russia who are active. Whoever is behind the most recent attack, intelligence agencies and politicians are alarmed. The upcoming 2017 election campaign in Germany will also be a campaign against disinformation and cyber hackers from Russia.
All right, let's pull in our political correspondent, Simon Young. He's on the story for us tonight in Berlin. Simon, you've got the German Chancellor, you've got Germany's top spy official, both basically saying that the Russians are coming in this cyber era of warfare. Why are they so sure that it's coming from Russia?
Well, that's not entirely clear, Brent. Both Angela Merkel and the Interior Minister Thomas de Maizière said today that they didn't know, they couldn't know for sure where this attack came from, and they didn't want to speculate. But they both went on to mention Russia as one of the countries that's been most closely fingered for being a source of these kind of cyber attacks. And there has been plenty of concern, as you say, the nation's top spy, the head of the spy agency, has been warning about the potential for destabilizing activity online, coming in particular from Russia. And just as recently as this August, we saw an attempted attack against computers of members of the German parliament, which was thwarted. But nonetheless, people was pretty certain that that came from Russia. So there's a lot of concern about Russian illicit cyber activity.
A lot of concern and not many solutions on offer, right? The German chancellor saying today that basically we have to learn to live with this new norm, if you will. I mean, that's not too reassuring, is it?
Well, maybe it's just realistic, although I think the Chancellor probably sounds very relaxed there for a lot of people's taste. She did go on to say that the solution really is to educate people to protect their computer systems properly. But a debate has been stirred up again. A lot of politicians saying that the hardware manufacturers and the internet providers like Deutsche Telekom should perhaps be held responsible to make sure that malware and viruses don't get into these important networks.
All right, our political correspondent Simon Young on the story for us tonight in Berlin. Simon, thank you very much. A Russian threat may sound familiar, almost Cold War-like, but don't be fooled. This is 100% full-out 21st century warfare. As we heard today, the number of cyber attacks is increasing, and that will not change. At the same time, the Internet of Things is upon us. Everything in our lives is becoming interconnected via the Internet, our cars, refrigerators, power grids, bank accounts, and none of them yet, not even our smartphones, are smart enough to recognize an attack. Now, that means a cyber offensive could bring modern society as we know it to a standstill without a single shot being fired. A manipulated election, for example, could trigger all kinds of destabilizing forces. And again, this is nothing new to the powers that be here in Europe. Take a listen to what a member of the German Bundestag's Foreign Affairs Committee told me last month. We have a general election coming up in Germany next year. Is there concern in the government, in parliament, that there will be attempts by Russia to manipulate the election here?
Well, not manipulations, but the wrong strategic disinformation is already ongoing. So there is a strong targeting of AfD, Alternative for Germany, representatives who are supported by Russia media, who are supported by their trips to Eastern Europe. And as well, there is the promulgation of wrong information inside Germany.